Welcome back to another episode of Stop This Girl. I'm your host, Heidi Schmidt, social media strategist, agency owner, social media early adopter, all the things. I feel a little weird. I'm gonna be a little blunt here for a second. I'm recording on a Monday morning because I just came back from vacation and it's weird. Back from a few days at the beach, refreshed, a little stressed, but we do what we can. So today I wanted to talk about reels because I get a lot of questions about reels. Like, why are they so important? And why do I need to do them? How do I do them? I hate being on video, all of those things. So I wanted to talk a little bit about reels. And I know this because I'm going to be jumping on a client meeting, and my client absolutely hates taking video of herself. She just feels very self conscious. So I'm going to talk about one of the solutions that I've done for that to kind of help her with that. And we're also going to talk a little bit just about the overarching importance of reels to your Instagram strategy. Instagram keeps saying, like, oh, we're a photo platform and we're trying to make sure reels don't matter as much anymore. They do still matter as far as getting in front of non-followers. Like, reels are just the best way to find new people where they are and get them to follow you. So if you want to reach people who don't follow you, you need to be doing reels. That's the bottom line here. And here's the thing, you don't need to overthink them. And I talk a lot about not overthinking your content and not overthinking how you show up, rather, like show up authentically, show up messy. Don't overthink how you're showing up. If you're going to overthink something, overthink the content a little bit. But even then, don't overthink that because it's not worth stressing out about. If we remember, social media has a lifespan of like 5 minutes. Literally, like 5 minutes is probably the max social media lifespan that your post has. Now, granted, reels, it's a little bit longer because your reel might not pop off the first time. And then 3 days later, you're going to be like, how did I get 1,000 views? So reels have a little bit more longevity, especially because of trending music, all that fun stuff. Reels absolutely matter. You need to be doing reels, like straight up. They have higher engagement rates, they reach that broader audience, and they're that opportunity to really showcase that creativity and personality behind your brand. I talk a lot about showing up messy and being very personal and authentic and showing the behind the scenes as I say this as I look at my super messy desk and I'm just like, oh, I gotta clean this. It's that avenue to really get to people where they are and show yourself authentically in a way that connects to those people. There's this running joke that you'll see a lot of social media managers post about on Reels, and I absolutely hate it, but it's so true because even I overthink my content sometimes. So overthinking content only for your reel to get like 3 views, and then the one reel that you're just like, I'm just gonna throw this together, like 40,000 views. Kidding, I think I've maybe had like 2 or 3 reels in the entire time that I've been on Instagram actually hit 40,000. One of them was a travel reel that I did on my way to Boston for a conference. Just to kind of put it into perspective, because we talk about reels giving you a lot more reach and impressions, 3 little statistics, because I'm a lover of statistics here. So they have a reach rate of about 30%. Now, when we look at a static post, I don't know what the difference is, but I tell people that static posts, especially more so on Facebook than Instagram, Instagram is probably a little bit higher. You're likely to reach about 10% of your audience. So when you think about that, you have 30% of that audience that you're going to reach. Like, if you really want to reach your audience as well as new audiences, reels are how to do that. They also get twice as many impressions, and we know that impressions are the number of times it's seen versus reach, which is individuals who have seen it. I mentioned before my client who really struggles to do talking head videos. So one of the things that I've done for her is she does these monthly calls that are about an hour long, and I use a tool called Descript, which I will link, is like my new favorite video editing tool ever. So it uses AI, it transcribes, and you just go through the transcription and it like edits out the pauses or the stumbles and the repeats and all that stuff. And the AI will identify the clips that are best for reels, and you can tell it, I want 5 reels and I want them to be 45 seconds each, and it'll pull them for you. And then you edit, you add the like the captions, and it's magic. It saved me time. I've started using that for my own reels, especially when I turn podcasts into reels because I videotape everything. So highly recommend if you're doing any sort of long form video content, like even webinars, like that kind of stuff, anything like that, you can repurpose into reels. Fun fact. That's tip number one to get out of your head. There's this whole trend of the faceless reels, which I don't love it, but there are B-roll reels that you can do in your everyday life. I don't know how many videos I have of me walking on the dock down at my neighborhood. That's like, oh, I can use these. I went on vacation to the beach last week and I took some video of just like the sand dunes with the grass waving in the wind. Um, you can find B-roll in your everyday life. Like, take one of you swirling your coffee here. Reels don't need to be really long. There is an argument to be said that if you're doing reels as a brand, especially if you are the face of your brand, there should be some talking head videos there to use. There should be, absolutely, because people want to see you, they want to connect with you. So don't hide yourself from your reels. You're gonna do B-roll reels, and I struggle with this sometimes because my kitchen's really dark. If you're gonna do them like of you pouring your coffee, like those are always fun reels to do. Make sure that you have good lighting. That's another good thing. Watch shadows, make sure you have good lighting. I try to do this when I go on site with clients, but make sure that you have a plan. Like, how many reels do you want to shoot? Okay, what do I need? Shooting like 10 seconds of yourself and just like looking away and then looking to the camera and you can smile, like little things like that. And then just put the text overlay and boom, reel done. There's power and simplicity when it comes to reels because ultimately you have about 1 to 2 seconds to hook them in and then 5 seconds before they're going to scroll away. So ideally, you want your reels to be somewhere between 5 to 15 seconds. Instagram has said that like longer reels, like longer than 90 seconds, which is I think the current max time, don't tend to perform as well. They don't promote them on the explore page, so you're not going to get as much reach. So shorter, sweeter, keep them short and sweet. That's what I'm trying to say. Video quality, that's one thing. Super easy. I tell my son this because he has his own little YouTube channel and he loves to shoot YouTube shorts. But holy hell, the kid does not have a steady hand. And I'm like, dude, you're gonna make me seasick watching your video because your video is all over the place. So, whatever you do, make sure you have a steady shot. Tripods help. Tripods help. I will link my favorite tripods in the notes, all my favorite video gear that I have because I have a ring light, I have tripods, all the fun things. And if you want to get fancy with it, I have a fancier camera. I don't tend to use it as much because it doesn't play nice with my Mac as terms of getting video off. Maybe that's user error. I find that it's easier to just shoot on my phone and just as good. So let's talk a little bit about not overthinking your content. How many drafts do you currently have in your Instagram app of maybe things that you put together, but you just didn't think that they were good enough or whatever? Oh, I gotta fix this, or oh, I need to write a longer caption. Whatever it is, just post the damn thing. Like, seriously, I have probably 2 dozen, and you know what they're doing? They're just taking up space. That's all that those drafts are doing. They're taking up space. And honestly, if they flop, you learn something. You learn, okay, well, maybe that message wasn't right. Or I got a lot of views, but I didn't get good engagement. So how do I remedy that? Maybe it's the hook on the video. Maybe it's the hook in the caption. What was it that didn't resonate? If you're strapped for time and you're like, hey, I don't have time to shoot reels, lies. Lies, 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 lies. I know that I can shoot probably 5 to 6 reels in about an hour. And depending if I'm on site with a client, like I just capture all of the B-roll. Like I have all of the ideas and okay, here's what we're gonna do. And don't think that you can only post a reel once. Don't think that you can only use that same video once. Like if it's B-roll, especially, you can use that more than once. I promise. No one's gonna know. No one's gonna know. Using your content calendar, which we talked about last time, you can use templates if you use an app like CapCut. You can use templates there. There are time-saving tools out there. If you're like, I don't have time to shoot reels, yes, you do. And maybe it's just the B-roll content that you shoot. Maybe it's just the B-roll content that you shoot. Maybe you don't do the talking head reels. That's a-okay. But you know what? Nothing's going to change if nothing changes. And that's true of any aspect of your marketing strategy, your social media strategy. Like nothing changes if nothing changes. So if you're saying you don't have time, block off an hour. Block off an hour. And you don't need to post reels every day. You really don't. Like, I hate the people that post reels every day because, okay, you're trying a little hard and people like different content formats. Not everyone doom scrolls their reels, but taking that time to just shoot 4 or 5 reels and just having them in your back pocket, but actually scheduling them, don't just hold on to the drafts, is going to help breed that consistency. Now, what does each reel need to have? What do you need to have a successful reel? You need to have a hook. Hook on your reel because that's what's going to attract them. That's what's going to keep them watching. That's what's going to make them hold the video and read the caption. There's a big thing about looping reels that loop because it ups your playtime, but it's so important to capture that attention immediately. Whether it's asking a question, showing a surprising element, stating a bold fact. I subscribe to a email newsletter, which is fantastic. I'm pretty sure I pay for it. It's like $10 a month though. But it's a weekly reel report and it tells me all of the fun trends. And I use it for my clients, I use it for myself. It's fantastic. But it gives you some of the trending audio, some of the reels trends that are going on. I will link to it in the comments or in the show notes. There's some of the hooks that I see is like X ways what does your audience want to achieve? Or I don't know who needs to hear this, but and then there's your advice, your expertise, or point of view, someone just said, and then a myth. But those are examples of hooks. Those are the things that like, oh, I want to see what happens here. Another client of mine really likes the stories. So she likes multiple clips kind of clipped together that makes movement in the reel versus just kind of short, quippy, hey, I'm walking here kind of reels of your feet. Everyone has their own preference. You got to figure out what works for you. Another real hook that I like is this account is for, and then say who your ideal audience is. That's who your account is for. I had one of those a couple weeks ago and it performed really well. I was really happy. But again, I don't track the reels, the views and everything. I do to know, okay, this is what's performing well, but I don't track it to be like, oh, 40,000 views on one reel. What did that get me? Did it get me 40,000 new followers? Because that's a vanity metric. Again, we talked about those and vanity metrics help no one. So tracking just your reels views isn't so helpful if you're just like, oh, I got 1,000 views. That's great. But was the engagement high? Did you get a bunch of new followers? You have to look at, okay, that's great, but did it do these other things? Were your profile views up? Because those are things that I would want to see. In conclusion, we're going to talk about these are my 4 tips for using effective reels. Be consistent. Again, if you're going to post 1 reel a week or 5 reels per week, like stick with something and batch your content. That's going to really help with that consistency. Utilize trends. There are so many newsletters. I mentioned B Squared Social, which I subscribe to, which tells me the trends. You can also find trending audio in your app, but that kind of keeps you relevant to like what's on trend as well as keep finding out how to use it for your brand. So I really like newsletters because it gives me new ideas that I can implement with my clients, all that kind of fun stuff. Always, always, always engage. If you're getting comments, make sure that you're following up with that engagement because that's really going to help your reach. And then make sure that you're tracking your analytics. If you're getting lots of views, especially from non-followers, I would want to see growth in followers month over month, especially if your reels are performing really well. If you're not, then you need to look at your messaging to see what's the disconnect. Why aren't people following me? Why am I not growing? What's going on here? If your profile views aren't up, because profile views is one of those key indicators that I track on Instagram to see that people want to learn more about you, your account. They want to find your website. They want to make that next step. They want to follow you. All of those things should be up, especially if you're getting lots of reach. If you're really diving into your reels and you really want to make sure that what you're doing is actually moving the needle, those are the things that I would track. I would track reach. Are your followers growing? And I don't know that there's an industry benchmark, but I think probably like around a 5% growth in followers would be really a good month over month, depending especially on where you're starting from. Finally, I mentioned some of my favorite tools, and I'm going to link to some of my favorite video stuff, tripods, ring lights, all the things in the show notes. But also, I use InShot and CapCut mostly for editing. They make it really easy. And I really actually like the Instagram app for editing also. People underestimate the power of editing in app, and I think Instagram actually likes when you edit in app because you're using their app. If you want someone else to do your B-roll for you, there are tools. I subscribe to a website called Content Cove because I have had clients in the past that just don't get any video content for us ever. And so I needed kind of some stocky, real life looking videos. And Canva just wasn't cutting it for me. So it's nice. Like they have lots of outdoorsy ones. So, some of them are good, some of them are a little kitschy. And I'm like, no one would put their coffee on the ground and take a video of it. But that's besides the point. Use what you want. So don't overthink your reels. They're not worth it. Keep it simple. Just showing up is the first step. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. One of my best friends wrote that for me in my high school yearbook, which was really funny at the time. But it's true. You have big goals for your business. You have to start small. You have to start somewhere. And if your biggest challenge is you're your own roadblock, like you have to get out of your own way. You have to stop overthinking your content. You have to show up consistently. And you have to look at your analytics to see, okay, this is where I'm starting from. This is where I need to go. And this is what I need to do to get there. There's this whole marketing strategy thing that I used to have in one of my old jobs. And it was like, what do we want to be? What do we want? What are we going to do to get there? What are we going to have? What do we need to have to do all those things? Be do have. There's a deeper dive on that. But it's true. If you want to be the best, insert your service here. What do you need to do to get there? What do you need to have to help you do those things? Do you need an assistant? So think about your marketing, bigger picture, and then social media is just one component of your overall marketing strategy. And when you put all of your eggs in one basket on social media, remember it's rented space, you're doing yourself a huge disservice. Remember, reels are just a tactic. They're not your whole marketing strategy. Don't put all of your marketing goals into one single tactic, no matter what you do. Anyhow, that is all for today. Share, subscribe. In the meantime, connect with me on social. That is all for now. Until next week, here's to creating great content that stops the scroll. Till next time.